Another Monday has come, and that brings a more special edition Salt Mine Pod ACL coverage. But with the playoff twist you all know and love for the last couple of weeks here, we are in the lower bracket Mondays per usual. And boy, do we have a match between two of arguably the greatest teams of the regular season there, Quacks. It is going to be AoE Esports taking on the renamed Mirage Alliance, the 1 and 2 seed from the respective divisions. And one of those two teams is not going to be a part of the ACL once we're done with this stream.
Be able to make it further, right? But only one can make it out on the day. Like you said, it's AoE versus Mirage Alliance. Game number one, we got AoE on the blue side, Mirage on the red side. And really, I feel like we have come from a tale of two very different players, especially when you consider how we kind of got here, Slayer. Mirage Alliance, a team that not a lot of people were super high on, at least not in terms of like being able to top the group and do as well as they did in the regular season. And they managed to upset so many teams. They managed to fight their way through the Noxus division and claim that second seed, barely missing out on the first seed, I might add. So there could have been a case where they could have been the best team in Noxus, but AoE, everybody knew these guys would dominate Piltover. And dominate Piltover, they have 16-1 game record. The only game that they lost was in their first week of play against Gentle Hearts, which I feel we can definitely chalk up to, just some kind of rust on the players. Other than that, they've been a well-oiled machine, no rust detected, and they are looking to clean sweep this series and continue that lower bracket run.
Yeah, Quacks, I'm glad you point out week one wins definitely aren't a great way to judge teams, because if we judged the ACL off the week one wins we saw, it'd be a much different league than we're looking at right now. But that is certainly not the case. What is the case? We are live with our draft here, already firing through. They went through the bands quicker than, honestly, I was expecting, but a result you've seen so many times from so many competitive drafts for the blue side when this champion's left up. It is B1. The difference will be there will be no difference here for mobility, as area of effect will grab that Ashe in that B1 slot.
And, a lot of times we like to talk about the mid lane, so I expect we'll probably see some action early on from Mirage Alliance here, and a lot of support built around those mid lane picks that we know Utter really likes to pick on up. So yeah, the Ivern's going to get locked in, going to help a lot with some of those more engage heavy mid laners we know Utter likes to play. And Ezreal, a very good weak side AD carry. So we're already setting ourselves up to play for these solo lanes. Mirage Alliance already just looking to stick to their guns early on in this draft. Now, AoE, I would expect some more attention paid toward that bot lane. Probably going to counter pick in that jungle as well. They're going to lock in that Vi. Very good pick into the Ivern. And they're actually not going to go for their support. Instead, they're going to open up in the mid lane and give Ariandel that Ahri.
Man, this is a no, I don't want this to come off in a bad way. This is honestly the opposite. This is the most like chalk draft I've seen in the last couple of months right now. If we're talking compositional style, an Ashe pick comp with a Vi Ahri combo in the mid jungle, that's a super synergy. And then Ivern with the Ezreal. The one difference here from Mirage is going to be with Utter, who likely locks in this Silas, usually alongside the Ivern. You think of like double marksman comps, a Corki with the Ezreal, but there's the Mirage Flare they're looking for. They're trying to make their playmaker superstar mid laner we've talked so much about for honestly months be that X factor. He likes the Silas into the Ahri, much like I would say Faker did into Chovy's Ahri, as we saw in the World Championships.
Yep, I love the reference there from you, Slayer. And honestly, I think when we're talking about matchups, another lane that we have to consider as we are going into the bans here is that top lane, right? You look at Cozy, and then you also look at Decoy, and these guys, their most played champions, Decoy's most played is that Jax with, I believe, 5 picks on it, and then Cozy with Gnar. So that is possibly one of the worst matchups you can find yourself in if you are the Jax. Gnar unanimously wins out on that one. So I am expecting a slight draft advantage coming out here for AoE on the top side. And both top laners as well, very keen to getting that side lane style that they know and love. So I expect the top lane matchup to be very important here. Now, Mirage finishing off their bans. They got the Nautilus, they got the Renata. I think they're probably just going to throw down the support here, leave 5th pick open to the top lane, and get that good matchup. They're going to lock in the Alistar. Probably, honestly, I'm not sure if I would have liked to take the Alistar. Maybe AoE turn their brains off and pick it instead, and then Silas gets the ultimate. Now, though, AoE do have to be careful about that hijack going forward.
Got to be something in the back of your mind every time you see the Silas get drafted, especially earlier on. But what will they want to try and combine with this Ashe? They'll go for the Poppy, so they give that counter pick over to really try and shut down this Alistar. So we'll see what Breezy can do with the Poppy in hands. But that is, one of the sacrifices you think about. Poppy's very good in the Alistar matchup, but giving away that Keeper's Verdict is certainly an annoying pest thing you're going to have to deal with. Not the favorite ultimate for Silas to grab out of the AoE comp, but still very, very valuable when you talk about trying to neutralize these fights. Who the Poppy can knock away and now who the Silas can knock away become very key points in these fights going forward as we see the classic blind pick come across, the Cassante for Cozy up towards that top side.
So Cassante for Cozy, now I'm thinking maybe something that can deal with that tank, like a Jax could be in the wheelhouse, but also something like a Garen, right? You don't get negated by that Poppy. You can execute some of those frontliners as well. And I mean, that works as well, right? We said we needed someone to deal with that front line. Gwen is that, but also scales along with the rest of the team. This is a very late game oriented Mirage Alliance comp. And so Gwen fits that niche perfectly. My only worry is the very high amount of magic damage coming out here from Mirage Alliance. You've got the Gwen, you've got the Silas, you've got the Ivern. The Ezreal, of course, is going to be in the back of your mind, but doesn't really hit super hard, especially on those frontliners from AoE that we've mentioned so many times. Until around that 3-item mark, Slayer, you would know this better than anybody as the Ezreal guy on the broadcast. But I do think AoE in these early stages with item advantages potentially could just face tank a lot of the damage Mirage has for at least the first 20 minutes. And Mirage gonna have to pay respects to that, gonna have to back off, and it's gonna be up to AoE to pull that trigger early, utilize those level 6 marks on the Vi, on the Ahri, on the Ashe, and just run with their advantages.
Yeah, I'm very impressed by how AoE have approached the start of this series because as much as I am a big fan of this Mirage Alliance roster, and the one thing I've talked about with a lot of times with them is their synergy together as a squad has been very potent. Obviously, because 4 out of the 5 of these members are, have been playing together since really all the way back to the start of June with that AMI roster that made a pretty decent run. But AoE are definitely the team that has the higher skill ceiling here. If we're talking about these players, a lot of them playing in tier 2 level, performing well in the tier 2 level past this summer. So they lock in a composition that, like you've called out, Quacks, is easy to execute and is much more powerful earlier on in the game. And when you have players that have played at a higher level, you expect to play at that higher level, they can execute this comp much easier and just get a dominating lead early on. That's going to make it hard for Mirage to really come back. And it might not necessarily even be in kills. It could be just pure those macro movements, playing for things like plates, farm leads, and those neutral objectives. It's a thing you see from teams like Ole Miss right now. I know Collimer talks a lot about it, how they don't really care too much about kill count because they're getting leads somewhere else. It's the gold lead that matters. And I think that's what we might see from AoE in this game 1 with the comp they've been able to draft.
And I'm glad you mentioned that because AoE look like a much more rounded team when they can allow Ariandel space in the mid lane and sort of drip feed him resources to be a monster later on in the game. That late game is really what he's known for. I think mid lane pressure is going to be a big determining factor in this series. And if Mirage Alliance want to knock out the favorites in AoE, they got to clip Ariandel's wings and put pressure where they know the best, which is in that mid lane.
Mid lane going to be a very, very potent matchup. We already made the joke about Chovy Faker. The matchup in itself is going to be very fun to watch. I am very curious to see how we see XU perform, though, with this Vi, as it is going to be, I feel like Ivern is a very good neutralizer of that Vi. Maybe not in those early stages, but just, purely kit versus kit when you talk about how these two champions interact with each other.
And Vi honestly has the opportunity that not a lot of other junglers have, which is to just mess with the Ivern early. This is something that Owner is really adamant about, specifically saying that when you're Vi, you have the ability to mess with the Ivern, to go around and sort of have an advantage with HP and make a play before the Ivern can really do anything. So that early active aggression that you talked about, Slayer, that XU should have around the level 6 mark, around the grub timer, is very real. So I want to see them be proactive with those level 6 marks. Like we've said, go for those objectives and just, again, try to get an advantage before Mirage Alliance can scale on up around that 3rd dragon mark, I would say, is really when you as AoE got to start getting worried if you aren't at around the 7th is 5,000 gold lead.
And Quacks, I just realized that, looking at the roster for AoE and the bench, I forgot to update and check the the lineups, but technically XU is subbing in here for City Witty, so I'm not 100% sure how long this has been going on, but I would say this is an upgrade because I would consider XU
an LTA player is here in the ACL.
Hey, you know what? That's the selling point, right? I know Gordon likes to punch that line every time he possibly can when talking about the ACL, but we are going to get an LTA official jungler stepping in here for AoE.
Look at us moving up in the world, Slayer.
Yeah, casting LTA players. We can cross that one off the book. We finally got to the LCS one a bit ago. Now we can officially do the LTA one. Well, we're going to get to see XU and the rest of Area of Effect on the Rift here with this comp that we've stressed very heavily will be potent in the first early window of this game number 1, the early part of this Fearless Best of 3 series. The question becomes, can Mirage Alliance hunker down and wait for their comp to scale up like we know so many Ivern comps can? We'll find out when we get to that familiar battle arena. Summoner's Rift, game number 1, AoE Esports versus Mirage Alliance, coming your guys' way in just a few. Game number 1, AoE taking on Mirage Alliance. Not too long ago, this might have been a match you saw in the promotion tournament. Now it is in the higher stakes, lower bracket of the ACL playoffs. And with the super sub LTA member rumored, we gotta make sure to clarify, Quacks, rumored.
Yep.
Exyu stepping in here as this has been their third jungler for AoE to show up this split. They've had City Witty, they've had Will last week, and now they have Exyu.
For sure, and I'm interested to see how kind of Exyu fits into the mold of this team, because you have to remember, Slayer, despite this team doing so well in the Piltover division, this is the first time that we have actually covered them. So it's a bit surprising to me that we haven't actually really visited this team yet. So this will be technically the first look we have on them for the Salt Mine. But I would expect, and I'm sure they would expect as well, probably not going to be their last. At least Mirage Alliance want to make that the case. They want it to be the last time we see AoE because they want to keep themselves here in the ACL. And you can already see Ariandel proccing that Grasp of the Undying in the mid lane, wanting to look for a lot of those trades, anticipating that Utter will be the aggressor in these first few minutes.
Yeah, Quacks, you called it. I know I was gone for a week for a holiday, but
this is still strange. It didn't change that much.
Okay, I was like, we're running Grasp on Ari, but man, we'll see how it works out for Ariandel as he gets into a couple of rough early trades. Maybe just trying to build up some extra stats to avoid the very bursty potential of his mid lane counterpart. To track how that goes on is certainly feels like Utter is not slowing down the tempo here, looking for these abscond abduct engages constantly in that lane. Decoy markedly able to get a bit of a lead over Cozy, which, hey, any amount of time in the early game on Gwen you can get comfortability in your lane, that's like 2 times the win that it is for any other champion.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if Gwen is able to scale on up, then it's going to be a very dangerous game for AoE later down in the line, because they are very engage heavy. You have to keep that in mind. The Ahri, the Vi, the Cassante, and the Poppy all want to go forward. And so having the classic Gwen is immune in your back pocket, going to be very useful later down the line as Utter.
Ooh, Ariandel, great flash to get the charm after the Q, and that is a BM flash from Utter. The E goes through for Exyu after the flash is casted. First blood over to the super sub LTA jungler for AoE.
And we said the focus needed to be in the mid lane, Slayer, and it looks like AoE got the memo. They burned the flash from Utter. Exyu still has that in his pocket, so the ability to visit that mid lane as well, a couple minutes down the line, going to still be available, especially with Ariandel going for the reset. Utter is going to push this wave back up toward the side of Ariandel and AoE, and that will be a golden opportunity for the Vi. But it does mean that Low Jazz does have a timer advantage here. Exyu not finishing his camps as fast, so the Ivern will be able to sneak away a Scuttle Crab without much difficulty.
Still like that proactivity from Exyu in this jungle matchup. Ivern, not really too important to how much you affect the early window with ganks. What a headbutt though for Pocus to throw Breezy under his own turret as he tries to throw him into the wall. This is the window when you want the Vi to be more proactive, and like you called out, exactly what AoE needed is looking to push in on the bot side as well, and Cozy will finally be able to start collecting some CS towards the top side, but Decoy in a pretty good position for Mirage, up top side with that Gwen.
Yeah, for the top side, actually going to go up toward there. Was looking for a play on the bot lane as well, because wanted to... They saw Low Jazz on that ward near the Raptors that just expired, so they knew the Ivern wouldn't be there to cover a dive, but the HP bar of Breezy going down, getting headbutt into that turret, I think kind of dissuaded them from going any further with that aggressive play. So it is just going to be both junglers resetting. Still, gold advantage from Exyu because of that kill in the mid lane, and Breezy almost canceling that back, but not quite.
Exyu spotted towards his topside jungle, clearing out that ward. So a bit of a timer, but not really any neutrals to play for just yet. Dragon is still about 10 seconds away, and with both bot lanes resetting, not going to be where to look for the play. Low Jazz giving a bit of assist to Utter, was looking for an angle onto Ariandel, but seems like there's not really much to play for at this current spot. We'll figure out where the junglers really want to go early on with these two neutrals that'll both be on the Rift within the next 30 seconds.
It's a small thing, but Lojaz going there, it feels like kind of messes his timer up because now you can see Exu understanding the Ivern in his back top is crossing over the river, going with the rest of his team, and looking to make an aggressive play now on this Dragon, which they can't be contested on Slayer, so they get an objective for free. The Grubs are up on the other side of the map. They don't have the priority. And now, only now, does Lojaz go toward this blue side. So it's too late for them to really contest. Beautiful use of timers. Brilliant shot calling from AoE.
Exactly what you expect from a guy with the caliber that XU does bring to the table any team he is on. Like you called out, Lojaz a bit too late here. Breeze is going to look to punish him, but doesn't get the stun. Just a bit of a pushback. We don't see XU recast that Vault Breaker to go over the wall, but we do see both ultimates drop to the top side. Cozy certainly way more healthy. Decoy going to try to heal with the needlework, but he does not have enough HP. Now has to burn the ghost and try and cut down the angle. And with both top laners not utilizing or taking the flash in this matchup, he's able to just run his way out.
Decoy managing to get out with a sliver of HP, but still, you gotta respect that Cassante. We said the position that Decoy was in this top lane was good for the Gwen, but that doesn't mean you can 1v1 the Cassante, and I think that was a bit of a reality check there for the top laner of Mirage Alliance. You've still got to play it carefully, and I think he is going to take that going forward from here on out, which is going to mean AoE get control of this top side for the future. And XU already not even skipping a beat and going immediately to those Grubs. Another advantage to AoE. And this early game proactivity that we said they have played to perfection, Slayer.
The only thing for Lojaz really to get back here is steal away some of the Raptors. He'll get that camp over. And it is important to remember that this is somewhat of an ideal scenario in some ways for this Mirage side. The neutrals are certainly going to be pretty painful, but outside of that, you're not giving away clear leads in these lanes where you're looking to scale in. The Gwen hasn't died yet. The Ivern, Ezreal, and Alistar have been able to, stabilize, keep CS decently close. And that is the idea for Mirage, because if this game goes on long enough and items, deeper 3-4 item sets come through, the 5-stack of this comp for Mirage is a real big threat to any comp, especially the one AoE is drafted.
And it seems like AoE's plan at the moment is to completely prevent them from grouping up in the first place. They're trying to pick off Lojaz in his own jungle. You saw that aggressive play from Breezy just a couple of minutes ago. We saw that play from XU in the mid lane, which netted them their only kill so far in this game. So being able to just separate Mirage, keep them from grouping on up, good game plan from AoE, and so far they've been successful at it, but like you said, once you get those 3 to 4 items, it's going to be harder to fight your way through these hyperscalers on Mirage.
Ooh, Ash Arrow going to land onto Utter, and it chains Ariendel with the Charm Spirit rush up. XU diving under with the flash, and Quacks, as you stated, these two teams got to play around the mid lane, and boy, have AoE found a way to get a lead through there.
Yeah, the snipe coming out from Mobility. They managed to finish the job. They take it down Utter. And no teleport from the Sylas means Ariandel should be able to shove this wave in, deny more experience from the mid laner of Mirage Alliance. And they're even going to pull Lojaz from his jungle to hold this wave. So they're absorbing pressure from multiple members with that gank alone.
Cool to see how Ariandel has approached this Sylas matchup. I got to think the grasp the rune take was going into the Sylas, and now the build as well has rushed heal cut, had that heal cut completed before the Lost Chapter was even done. So Ariendel recognizing that he has his own way to play the Sylas matchup to try and neutralize Utter. And while he certainly had the help with Ash Arrows and his jungler, got himself in a pretty powerful spot, or more so put Sylas in a very behind position in these opening 9 minutes.
And Breezy on the roam from the Poppy, you can see canceling Decoy's back, but is very deep. So has to be careful not to get picked on off. But the deep vision coming out from AoE ahead of these Grubs coming up in about 30-ish seconds to a minute around that time frame. And already AoE are setting up for it. So playing the long game, understanding that denying these advantages away from Mirage Alliance has to be priority number one, and being very, very quick on the trigger in order to establish control of this top side.
Okay, Mobility, another Ash Arrow thrown out. Pocus is going to pop the Unbreakable, will get back towards the turret. It looks like they're trying to potentially set up a dive onto Decoy, but Mirage stays safe for now. The 4-stack of AoE still looking to Mikely play for those grubs as Kosi trying to cut down the angle onto Baz towards the bot side. Pocus going to go back in. Does not have the Unbreakable Will anymore, so the cow is much easier to burn through, and they get Pocus down first. Breezy is going to be the trade, but here comes Decoy and Low Jazz. With Daisy and Don't, they're going to lock up XU and find the shutdown. Mobility has to flash over the wall. Ariendel's Spirit Rush is as defensive as they come, but he darts back forward, maybe looking for a charm angle. Mobility has lethal tempo stacked up, but Mirage aren't going to let them find that avenue, and they'll take their big gold bounty shutdowns and go back to base.
It's Mirage winning out in the trade at the end of the day, a 1-for-2 in favor of them, but their health bars are not good enough to continue the fight, to go for those grubs. And so AoE on this blue side, this is part of the advantage of being on that side of the map, is that you just have easy access to the grubs. XU goes down, well, it doesn't matter. You can go right back toward the top side and keep on fighting, and it looks like both of these teams keep on fighting is the name of the game. They are not willing to give up an inch. They don't want to give up these grubs, but it's AoE who have started hitting them.
And this is showing a lack or a hole in the composition here for Mirage. They really just don't have reliable engage to go in and contest things like these grubs right now. It's an Ivern, an Alistair, a Silas, and a Gwen towards the top side. There's not a lot of lockdown. There's not a lot of pure engage to recast into the fight that they just won, so it's going to be 6 grubs. XU has now grabbed all 6 grubs in the first dragon in his performance, stepping in for AoE.
And it kind of feels like a misplay from Mirage Alliance at the end of the day, because you know you have no easy access to the grubs. You know you don't have Daisy. You know that your flashes are burnt across the board, or were burnt across the board. And overall, it feels like the dragon being up, you could have set up for that bot side objective, allowed AoE to come to you and taken something back, but they stay top side. They lose out in tempo. They lose out in those grubs. 6 now for AoE, like you mentioned, Slayer. And they're starting to really run away with this early game. We said the early game was the important part. Mirage still have the ability to come back, namely Decoy is 2-0. But with each and every trade that passes, it feels like they get further and further away from netting advantages.
Gold deficit, definitely a bit deceiving, like you talked about with how much the neutrals have swayed in the favor of AoE. Called it out, though. Decoy is the first one to get towards a pretty powerful first item for Mirage Alliance, but there's still some gaps between the rest of their composition. The Malignance is done for Ariendel by this point. Kraken Slayer for Mobility. Thundered Sky for XU. The Redemption's going to come across here for Low Jazz. That's a much cheaper first item, as we know with those Ivern comps. So this really is just a window where Mirage can't really contest much on the map, and that means second Dragon also goes over to Area of Effect as they continue to stay perfect in the neutrals category.
This is a rough place to be if you are Mirage Alliance, because now you're essentially on a 5-minute timer. You've got to be there for the third dragon, or else you risk just getting outscaled and the game becoming impossible. As Decoy,
he overstayed, didn't respect the teleport back in the fight, tries to catch the wave, and that is as easy as a shutdown as it comes. The only shutdown Mirage Alliance has currently in this game state.
Yeah, it's AoE taking control of this game, and it feels like Mirage are trying. Here they go again.
Udder uses the stolen Ash Arrow. Mobility throws one back in his face. In goes Pocus, gets the double knockup, cancels the Vault Breaker from XU, and Mobility is going to go down. Scott Duck going to send Udder under the turret, but the playmaking from the star mid laner from Mirage still potent, trying to keep them in this one. Next up is Decoy, though. Solo lane showing out here for MA. Goes Pop, Needlework going through. Koenig for Cozy getting burned through by the second. Breezy is close by. Pocus as well. But no further prompting coming through as Cozy's able to retreat towards his turret.
And now, because they bully Cozy out, Mirage could look to take control of this Herald, and you can see that's exactly what they intend to do. Ariendel also not having TP means the Ahri can't join up for this fight, and it looks like Basby might want to challenge him.
Oh, not hitting the Mystic shots. Ariendel uses the Spirit Rush. Has that demolished to break through the turret in this weird rune choice here from Ariendel. No further fight, though, with the minion wave descending.
Nope. Not going to chance his luck here this time. Baz has kept himself starkly neutral in this game. 0, 0, and 0 on the Ezreal. 15 minutes in. Slayer, I'll let you answer if that's a good thing or not.
Well, it's not. This isn't a good thing right here, Quacks. Vault Breaker coming across will get XU the kill. Easy CC lock. The turret dropping as well in the hands of AoE. I believe they were late to first turret gold, but still a net positive play, knocking down the AD carry from Mirage.
Get a TP coming out here from Utter in the mid lane, but AoE understanding it, and this is kind of what I talked about earlier with Mirage not going for that initial Infernal Dragon, understanding that that objective is a loss. AoE doing the opposite. They know they can't go for that Herald, so they go to the bot side of the map, they get a pick on Baz, they get not one, but two Tower Slayer, and what looked like an originally bad trade and a net positive for Mirage Alliance after all this time turns into a disaster for them on the bot side as they lose two objectives and a lot of space on that side.
3,000 gold lead, the biggest one of the game by far. We're going to get to see just how much value those double mics for everybody on AoE are going to have in this stage of the game. You can already see both the mid and top lane tier 1 turret more than under 25% HP. Shouldn't be long until AoE have a lot more of the map to play through in this game number 1.
Absolutely. Without that Herald, though, it is going to kind of stall their progress a little bit. The ability to knock down a turret basically instantly not going to be available for them. So Mirage have a bit of time to try and catch this gold lead back up. They don't really have anything to fight for the foreseeable future. So I like what they're doing here. They're putting Decoy and they're putting Utter in these side lanes, allowing them to get farm, allowing them to get resources. Because like I said earlier, you've got to get some bark to your, or some bite to your bark in this third dragon, or the game just becomes so damn difficult for them.
Really has gotten worse. Thought it might be a little bit of time before all the tier 1s knocked down, but they have fallen in just since that last point I was able to make. So a lot of the map really opens up here for AoE, and that's really scary when you consider the composition that we've hounded on, the playmaking ability of an Ashe, an Ahri, a Vi, constantly going to be worried about your jungle being taken over if you're Mirage by XU and company as this game rolls through.
Absolutely. You can see AoE, two members in this mid lane, Cozy on that reset, so they don't have the numbers to look for a pick, look for a play about a minute before this dragon. You know, you want to get an advantage, but they just don't have the numbers, it seems. But they're going to try and lay down some semblance of vision. You can see there's a couple of deep wards placed by AoE in those corridors around Mirage's base. So they've won the vision game, they've won the priority game. The question is, can they use that to literally win the game off of this dragon?
Here comes that big third dragon. Spawning on the Rift now. Mirage going to take control of the mid lane, maybe try and threaten a tier 1 trade of their own, but the Ashe Arrow comes through. Pokus going to immediately block the Unbreakable Will. Keeper's Verdict sends the Alistair out, and Breezy flashes to get engaged on top of the Gwen. Down goes Utter in the background, and both solos fall in an instant, and Ariandel is unleashed with a Spirit Rush. XU trying to come forward. Big charm on to Pokus. Gets our AoE a third kill, as Baz and Lojaz have to watch their team drop, and a commanding, victorious fight coming across for area of effect.
And AoE exerting their will onto the map. Mirage Alliance not able to fight back. And their reward is going to be that solo point. AoE, beautiful target selection right from the get-go. Ariandel unleashed in that fight, and they might not be done yet.
Lojaz flashing away. Wow, what aggressive flash mobility. Really wanted that kill, but now turns to Baz, who's able to turn out the damage himself, but not enough. Mobility just virtually 2v1s Lojaz and Baz to send some serious gold into his pocket.
Mobility using both the subs manages to tank up the damage, but Utter is on the prowl.
Flashes, dash canceled by Breezy. Blastco will save Mobility as the stolen Ashe Arrow is not going to hit him, and Breezy, the valiant support, playing right towards his role, should be sacrificed to Utter. Waiting on that abscond cooldown will find the kill, but Mobility able to get out with that shutdown.
Mobility gets out the satchel charge. He betrays his support Slayer, but definitely a worth it trade for the side of AoE. Mobility with that gold lead, Mobility with that shutdown rather, gets out, manages to keep that. and all the members of AoE so accelerated on the map. We said we needed around a 5 to 7 gold lead at the 20-minute mark, Slayer. And look at what the gold lead is here. It is 7,000 in favor of AoE. They are right where they want to be. The game state is exactly where they want it to be. And they might just take this game. I have to imagine one pick, they go for Baron, and they could just seal the deal from there.
7,000 gold, already very monumentous like you talked about, but it's also the neutral objective game. Outside of the Rift Herald, every single one has been grabbed up by XU and company. So you have a soul point coming in about 3.5 minutes, and you can see AoE have already marked what they want to play for next. They're taking over this topside jungle for Mirage, and the Baron seems like it should be coming up next. But XU does overstep, has to expend the flash to get away from a Pokus headbutt pulverize.
Yeah. I have to imagine Breezy and XU probably not the best at those, Call of Duty Black Ops sneak missions, because they were trying to be sneaky and get toward Low Jazz, but weren't able to do so. The result is XU burning that flash. They definitely are not sneaky, as Twitch would say.
Mirage trying to lean on their composition strengths here, stacking up his 5 with Daisy leading the charge. They're not able to find a real engage. Not the real crux of this comp, unless Utter has a very valuable ultimate, but Mirage just really trying to fight the vision war right now in their own jungle and make sure Baron isn't getting taken below them.
And it's walking on eggshells for Mirage at this point in the game, because one pick could lead into AoE immediately charging toward that Baron. Really, the map is their oyster at this point. They have so many turrets. They've got so much control over your side of the map. If you're Mirage Alliance, you get picked here, and it is a rough place to be in. It might just be game ending. So they want to fight for this vision, like you say, Slayer, but they don't want to die trying.
Is dying at this point will really, at the minimum, likely give up an inhibitor or more, because those mites are in play. We are looking for picks across the board, and Utter having to expend the hijacked cease and desist defensively, but here comes the real one, and the CC lock of the Ari-Vi combo we all know, and AoE loves. Ariandel on a rampage. Topside, the answer is Pokus going after Cozy with Decoy, and he's able to pick him up pretty easily, so that's a shutdown back towards Decoy. 1-for-1 between our two teams.
Good reaction there from Mirage Alliance. They know all the members of AoE are on the bot side. They can make that play happen, and they get the shutdown onto Cozy. Better yet, they give it onto a member and a champion that will make good use of it, right? The Gwen has really been, I think, the shining light for Mirage Alliance in this very dark game one. So if they can continue to drip feed these resources over to Decoy, this game has the ability to turn itself around, but it's still very difficult to see a light at the end of the tunnel, Slayer. We are still very far behind in gold as Mirage Alliance. We are still staring down the barrel of 3 dragons for AoE. The cards are stacked against us, but we cut the cards with scissors, if anything.
AoE certainly is counting cards here at the blackjack table, and Mirage have no idea they're going to have to load up. One big bet for it all coming up soon here, because the debacle of Dragon Soul or Baron Take is going to become a reality. 50 seconds until Area of Effect Esports can play for a Mountain Soul or a very powerful Baron with those mites that we've been highlighting.
Daisy summoned up in the mid lane. Mirage trying to gain control before this dragon. But look at Ariandel. Pay attention to the Ari on the flank. And AoE, they have a beautiful way to pincer Mirage Alliance, and Mirage don't know it yet, so they've got to be careful. I think even they know Ari is missing, and Ariandel might be planning something.
Cozy also had teleport if he needed it, but now with the wave in his favor, is just going to walk down for that pincer move. The 2 solo lanes for AoE coming for a collapse. Arrow going to hit Bass, going to immediately have to cleanse it. Pokus is trying to hold the front side of this fight in place, but he's pulled all out into the meat and bones of AoE. They knocked out Pokus first, and without their big tank in the front line, Ariandel can run forward and fight a clutch charm. Down goes Low Jazz, and now it's just mopping up the kills for AoE Esports. A double kill over to Ariandel as he picks off Low Jazz, and Utter and Baz have nothing to do but watch their base start to crumble. 3-0 to AoE Esports.
And they're not going to continue the push. Even though they have 6 grubs, they're going to say, let's play controlled. Let's go to the dragon. Let's pick up this advantage. And while we're at it, let's push that bot lane as Breezy. Getting focused down by Utter. But I don't know if this works.
Great dodge on the first abscond of Duct. Hijack Keeper's verdict. Breezy uses the wall to slam him in again. Utter is out of mana and will not kill off Breezy. And in the background, Mountain Soul at 24 minutes over to AoE Esports.
I would make an air pun for Breezy, but feels a little too easy. It's going to be a dragon coming there for AoE. And yeah, Breezy just messing with Mirage at this point. We're in a really rough spot if we're Mirage Alliance. I feel like losing that last fight and losing that most recent dragon, definitely the straw that broke the camel's back, because the Baron is on the table. 5 members of AoE are on the map around this top side, and at any point, they could just kind of force the wallet diff down the throats of Mirage and look to end this game.
Death Brush becomes the big option here for Mirage as they're trying to pick off Breezy, who is fairly tanky. Hijack cease and desist on the mobility, but the Asher mobility could kite back as he's able to flash to safety. And now with the rest of AoE here, they can just start to throw Mirage into the meat grinder. Utter and Pocus go down as we flash to the 1v1 of the 2 top laners. Decoy, the prevailing member, is the strongest one of Mirage Alliance, but his fleeting victory is a small price to pay for AoE.
Decoy manages to win out in the 1v1, but what else is happening on the map, Slayer? The Baron is under the thumb of AoE, and Decoy using that teleport earlier to get to that bot lane and win that 1v1. Now he won't be able to stop this play from happening. Mirage, though, I like what they're going for on the other side of the map. They're looking to get priority and pressure on this bot side, maybe set up for an Elder. But that just feels like such a difficult few minutes to get to, because now you're staring down the face of a 10,000 gold lead for AoE, 7-0-5 on the Ahri. We said Ariendel had to be the big piece of this AoE puzzle. And boy, oh boy, he has been a corner piece, if anything.
Solid to great member in this game, but AoE across the board have played pretty fantastically, especially when you consider how the comp was designed to execute. They took a lead early thanks to XU's ganks and did not look back since. And now with Baron and Knights, they can knock down the last remnants of turrets outside of that Mirage base. But an Ash Arrow hijack from Utter is going to get the aforementioned Ariendel picked off. That's 1,000 gold shutdown over to Baz's pocket.
And finally, Baz gets some resources into the Ezreal around that 3rd item mark. So the Ezreal is starting to really scale up into this poke threat who can just fire mystic shots off like their auto attacks. But really the big golden question, Slayer, is it too late? Are you too far behind in this game that 1,000 gold toward the Ezreal just doesn't matter?
But these fights have been going, it feels that way by this point. Quacks does slow down the Baron play at the very least for AoE. They've been able to get a tier 2 in the top side, but haven't really gotten anywhere close to threatening an inhibitor turret by now. About halfway through their Baron. Couple more big pushes should come across, but Mirage have at least shown for the first time that they can stall the game out some when they need to.
Cool, Focus.
XU just far too tanky by this point, and Pocus just gets shredded by mobility. This is the wallet slapping you were talking about, Quacks, as Pocus falls for a 5th time.
Pocus goes down, and Ariendel rises up, so it's a numbers advantage for AoE for about another 20 seconds. And like you said, they haven't really been able to breach the base of Mirage Alliance, despite the fact that they're super far ahead. The wave clear and the ability to just kind of neutralize wave states for Mirage Alliance is very good. So you're going to have to brute force your way through MA if you are AoE. You've got the members to do so, but again, we're paying attention to that timer, about a minute and a half away from that Elder. That might be the golden ticket for AoE, and potentially the golden ticket for Mirage if they can make it happen.
Hijacked arrow going to go wide there from Udder. Keeper's Verdict channeled by Breezy, not committed as the base is broken open. Top lane inhibitor being threatened by AoE. Oriental Spirit Rush. Looking for a charm angle, does not find it. Cozy very taken by this point, looking to pick somebody off, and it's once again Pocus, who is 5 levels behind the aforementioned Cozy. Decoy with the needlework, trying to shred through that frontline tank. Does have Cozy pinned, but a great Keeper's Verdict from Breezy sends you to the base. But Cozy does end up falling. Mobility now stepping up with XU, cease and desist, locking Baz B, who steps far too forward without his frontliners. Rate of kills. Hijack Keeper's Verdict going to send 2 members of AoE out. Here's the window for Mirage to go forward with Mobility. Oriental caught off. Another shutdown for Udder, but here comes Breezy next to you, back from the grave after they're sent sky high. But how much can AoE get done without their AD carry? Not much more, as they'll take the fight split.
And it's an even fight there for Mirage Alliance, and I have to think that favors them heavily at this point in the game with how far behind they are. As they're looking to turn it in their favor. Breezy
it's the speed up. Will get out, but did have to commit the flash.
Yep. So advantages coming through from Mirage, and really the biggest advantage is time, right? We've talked about it so many times this game, but they are able to stall this game out yet again, and now the Elder is about to rear its ugly head in a give or take 20 seconds. So Mirage can look to fight this. They've got the teleports from Udder, from Decoy to join in on the fight. They can clear these waves and then enter in toward this Dragon Pit on the bot side. But Decoy has to be careful about not getting picked. The members of Mirage have to be careful about not getting picked with XU and Ariendel.
Nothing is more synonymous with flipping games of League of Legends on their head than the Elder Dragon. That is the last fleeting hope for Mirage Alliance, as they'll jostle for mid lane control. That tier 1 turret still being up makes it pretty difficult. But look how AoE wait and lie for a trap in the river. Engage right on top of Udder. He steals away the cease assist, but his health bar is far too low to continue. Mobility picks up that kill. XU and Cozy hold the other carries at bay as Breezy sends Pocus sky high. Lojaz slowly getting chunked out by Cozy. A clutch charm from Ariendel sends Decoy to the gray screen, and Lojaz the next to fall. A couple sparks from the W will get an Ariendel double, but XU wants more. Flashing after Baz B has another vault breaker up, and Cozy and Ariendel just teleport behind for the ace to send it home. 1-0 lead in this lower bracket for AoE Esports.
Triple kill for Ariendel, and as 5A march on to the Nexus, AoE, the #1 seed from Piltover, looking to establish their lower bracket run here in the ACL Slayer.
Commanding victory. The only way to really take away from that one, 32 minutes, but there was really never a second, Quacks. It felt like Mirage Alliance were in control of that one. The Piltover fraud allegations are yet to really be proven in this series so far.
Yep. Yeah, that definitely is the case. And in the case of Mirage, you know, this is a team that looked so strong in the Noxus division, but a lot of people had questions about them after that after that series loss period to Polestar, right? Is this team one-dimensional? Can they only play through mid lane? It is up to them to win game #2 and dispel the fraud allegations about their organization as well. And AoE looking to convict them of those. With a game like that, it feels like 2-0 might be on the horizon, but it's a series, Slayer, and it's 2 teams that are looking to keep their hopes alive here in the playoffs.
I'm glad you mentioned it, Quacks, because the early game was really AoE shutting down the mid lane. Udder was the target of multiple ganks, cross-map bash arrows, so if you are AoE, feels like repeating that same cycle might get them the 2-0 sweep here. It's up to Mirage Alliance to buck that trend. They'll have side selection available to them for game #2 for what could be the last time we see Mirage Alliance in the ACL. If we have something to say about it, we'll be back with that draft in just a few. Don't go anywhere. Back in action here on the Salt Mine Podcast official Twitch channel, as we are the official coverage of the ACL in the thick of it when it comes to its playoffs. Lower bracket matchup between two teams that share only one series loss in the regular season. AoE Esports 1-0 up over Mirage Alliance and Quacks. Last one wasn't really that close by any means.
Yeah, it wasn't. But you said thick of it in the same sentence, and man, the brain rot of my generation
Oh,
is
no.
it's so doomed, man. Anyway, yes, I 100% agree with you. It was a very, very convincing win coming out there from AoE, dispelling the fraud allegations that I know TDS and I have kind of levied against them throughout the season. But hey, we literally were not familiar with their game, or at least I wasn't. This is the first time we have covered AoE, and based on that first game one performance, they're making sure that it's not going to be the last. So again, when you've got, attention paid toward that mid lane, when it feels like Mirage's best bet is around Utter, and that's really the style that they are most used to playing toward, you shut that down and Mirage basically looked directionless. So I think it's going to be up to Mirage to get other facets of pressure in this series. Maybe we can throw something the way of Decoy. Maybe we can throw something the way of Baz. Get somebody else on the map, focus down another lane, and try to put AoE on their toes. Make sure that their prep, most importantly, is obsolete, because they have definitely prepared for Mirage to play around that mid lane and to play around Utter.
We'll have to see if Mirage can try and expand their horizons like you talked about. Decoy did look pretty good. Probably will only want to come out with a lane win in that game number one with the Gwen.
Yeah.
They'll be on the blue side, as I have once again misled you, loyal viewers. Do not believe the logos. It is, in fact, Mirage on that blue side. We'll see where they go with that B1 pick, because like the title says on the stream, like we've known all season long, this is Fearless, baby. So Ash is off the table here to B1. We'll go with a different marksman if we're Mirage, as they'll pick up the Corki, likely here for Utter.
Yeah, so the Corki most likely going to go into that mid lane. I would expect AoE to respond with a mage of their own. Really, we haven't seen a ton of variety from Ariandel in a playstyle, but who knows? Maybe we'll see something different here. Actually, we are going to. I caster cursed it. Slayer is going to be the double marksman Smolder and Jin, and I'm wondering, because Mirage have a marksman of their own, maybe they'll go double marksman and lock in that Sejuani potentially. Like, I am interested to see, because now that the Ivern is locked away, maybe they want to try and get another weak side jungler who can really play into that double marksman composition. Something like a Mumu, something like a Nunu, even something like a Sejuani, something that can go for that weak side. But you know what isn't weak side, Slayer? It's what was locked in for that top lane for Mirage Alliance.
And Bessa has been unlocked. I'm unaware of how long we've allowed in the ACL. I think maybe last week
I think it was
online?
this week.
Or this week.
I think it was
Okay.
this week.
So this could
Yeah.
potentially be the first time we see Mbessa, and man, what a back two what a two picks we had there for Mirage Alliance. Mbessa going to Decoy, and then Low Jazz with the Nunu, looking to be proactive in the early game, opposite of what he was last time with the Ivern. And Renekton will immediately be slammed by Cozy, who does not want to play the tank side of the matchup anymore. And I smell a brawl in the top side between these two now, brewing from this draft.
We said we needed other facets of pressure from Mirage Alliance, and this is what we meant. Ambessa versus Renekton. It's going to be a scrappy one up in the top lane Slayer, but for the most part, we've gotten kind of the top lane established, but really it is going to be that bot lane that is relatively unknown. So far, though, AoE have picked up that Jhin, so they've got a read on what they want to do. Jhin as a champion, not super highly prioritized, so I'm wondering if maybe we're just going to draft for disengage on the side of AoE. We might go for something, I don't know, maybe something like a Braum is possible. You could go for something like a Rakan. If you want to go for some enchanter action, you could go for the Nami, just something with disengage. I do like the Braum, though, especially linked up with the Renekton later down the line. That's going to be really good for locking up those backliners on AoE. Do Braum, please. I am reading their minds. It's not Braum. That's not even that's not even the correct position, AoE. Come on, you're making me look stupid.
Diana. I don't remember the last time I've seen a Diana playing competitive like
Neither
this.
do I.
I feel like that's definitely a solo queue legendary champion you can play, but it will be locked in here. XU maybe starting to try and flex out that champion pool with the series lead. Mirage will respond with that Hui. And the question now becomes, I would expect this. I know Baz and Udder both are capable of playing either Corki Hui, so I'm curious what the lane assignments are actually going to look like here for Mirage and everything's said and done.
I mean, we've seen Baz before on this broadcast go for the bot lane. Now I imagine we'll probably see it linked up with something like a Leona. Yeah, that's going to be locked on up here for Mirage Alliance. Yes, I finally got something right. It wasn't the support I wanted, but, it is something. But if they go Braum here, I can get 2 in a row. Come on. Come on, AoE, do it. You know you want to.
I wonder, I mean, I'm with you. Braum feels like the realistic one. I don't hate a Renata pick into Leona if you wanted it. Renata into Mbessa, Nunu, Leona could be very effective with that hostile takeover, but
Woo!
Quacks nails both of the support picks here. So you're classic in the support realm, Leona versus Braum.
Yup. Ice versus, well, Leona isn't fire. She's sun, for Christ's sake.
I mean,
but
yeah.
Close enough. That's as close as I'm gonna get it. We do have Melio. He's a fire support. But this is in there at the same time. So yeah, it is going to be quite a scrappy bot lane matchup as well. Jhin definitely indicates that we are going to see some trading by AoE in the bot side, but all of that pales in comparison to the action we're going to see around that top side, right? Renekton versus Ambessa, Cozy versus Decoy. This is the matchup that draws my eye toward the top lane this game. And I think whoever manages to, again, get the ball rolling in the early game is going to be able to snowball it down later into the game and really take over from there.
Smolder coming across here in that mid lane with the Jhin. It's an interesting push and pull between the range on both teams, right? You're relying on a lot of damage from range, and then who can really cut down those angles, right? You talk about Mbessa with that public execution, really able to just blink onto whoever gets in that line. Usually when you're casting it, you're hoping it's one of the Smolder and Jhin. Diana jumping in with her entire combo. Renekton's going to be jumping in. Got giant snowballs flying through, so it's going to be fun to watch because in essence, I feel like both comps are trying to fight out this game in starkly similar fashion.
Absolutely. I think that the game plan from both of these squads is relatively similar, but it just feels like AoE are so much more versed in playing diverse strategies, right? We have seen Mirage Alliance go for different kinds of strategies, but they never look as good as when they're playing for that mid lane. And we said they needed to diversify their portfolio if they wanted to win this series, if they wanted to take a game off of AoE, but it feels so difficult when you're going against a team like AoE who are so good at playing different styles innately, right? So we saw a lot of action toward the mid lane. Now it's going to be a lot of action toward the top lane. They know all of the strategies. They got all the cards, and they are ready to play them one by one. Hey, that's our second card reference of the entire broadcast, Slayer. Look at us.
Yeah, just hammering. Listen, I can make a ton more card jokes. It would help if we had Twisted Fate, but unfortunately, the guy has fallen off of meta since he used to be leaning on attack speed builds.
We have 4 champions in this game who would definitely cheat at gambling. Corki would never get past security at the casino. This man is too short. Same goes for Nunu because he's quite literally underage. Smolder is underage. Jhin wears a mask, so that's not going to work. And Renekton might not make it as well. He's a crocodile.
He's a crocodile. I also believe canonically he's the size of buildings, so I don't
He's
know.
pretty large.
I don't know what buildings he would even fit into. Sounds like Leona and Braum are just going to have a fun time with Hui and Diana, and I don't know. I don't think at best is getting past security either. Too many weapons. I
don't think so.
Might just set off the metal detector the entire time, so.
Yep. But it's a fun one. That's for sure. This isn't going to be a gamble, however. The teams with their comps, they're not gambling a win here. They are looking to put all the cards in their favor and stack them against their opponents. So, Slayer, I'm going to bring us out. Thank you for this draft because I got both supports right. But we are going to go for a brief pause real quick before we get into game number 2, series point, ladies and gentlemen. And we'll see you guys on the other side.
Could this be the last time we see Mirage Alliance in the Aegis Champions League? It's time to find out. Summoner's Rift has welcomed us as Area of Effect Esports look to continue dominance in game number 1 with a much more aggressively drafted comp, a lot more pure damage online. We got the XU Diana showing out, Ariendel, Smolder, and the Mobility Jhin with that Dark Harvest. It's been pretty popular in recent weeks.
But all of that really pales in comparison to what we're going to be looking at in the top lane of Slayer. Cozy versus Decoy, Ambessa versus Renekton. The rest of AoE, very scale heavy. They really go well into the late game with the stat counter from the Smolder with the items for Jhin. But Renekton is all gas, no breaks in that early game. So AoE, their attention in this early game is going to have to be paid up toward that top side. And the same goes for Mirage Alliance. They got a fair and a decent amount of scaling with the Quay, with the Corki, but Ambessa sort of on borrowed time. You've got to get that threat established early on in this game. And it's actually looking like Mirage Alliance have no interest in playing fair as they are going to go for a lane swap, Slayer.
Decoy already getting chunks into Ariendel. So we do see that it is going to be Utter on the Hwei. And it's that 80 carry Corki from Baz. Still expected to build the same as you'd expect him in the mid lane, but AoE having to react, and we'll see exactly how they do so towards these lane swaps as Breezy and Cozy are looking to pass like an interstate highway towards this mid lane, but not before grabbing maybe a little bit of experience.
And Decoy doesn't have the flash, so I'm wondering with this Ignite, Teleport, more aggressive build that the Ambessa has taken, what we're going to see from Decoy, because, you know, you going in the mid lane kind of points to you not wanting to go aggressive, to throw AoE for a loop, so you're kind of wasting time, I feel, as the Ambessa, because now you're going to the bot lane, you're going to be forced into a 1v2, potentially 1v3 situation, as you can see Breezy is roaming on toward the bot lane to join up with his top laner and 80 carry, so it feels like you are stunting some of the best levels of your champion by doing this strategy.
What a wave stacked up by Mobility. Decoy did grab level 2. And we see Lojaz churn up a snowball. This is all just the anti-die preventative measures. Lojaz will slow down his clear, having to do so. Give a bit of advantage to XU, who will be done with his full clear before Lojaz is even able to touch his top side camps.
And he knows that Lojaz is on the bot side, so I'm wondering if XU, you know, maybe saying, I don't want to go toward the top lane because Cozy isn't level 3 yet. I would rather just farm. Decides, hey, I can look for an aggressive play on the top side. But Lojaz is already rotating over, I think, understanding the clear speed that Diana has innately in her kit. So won't be too interested in giving away any camps. And who knows, might even be willing to fight for this Herald, which is very difficult to take away from a Nunu.
Yeah, the Gromp just going to be gobbled up there. Or not Gromp, excuse me. Scuttle Crab gobbled up there. Get Lojaz over towards level 3. But XU still level 4 with double buffs. Is much mightier in this fight. And Lojaz finds out the hard way. Does proc the phase rush. But XU going to get another lunar dash in. Lojaz far too low. And XU just solos him out. That's an LTA jungler for you in the ACL, folks.
Oh my lord, XU yet again putting his foot on the gas in the early game, gets himself a kill, but this time in the enemy jungle as a Lojaz on this Nunu, immediately put behind. And Nunu, a champion that doesn't mind not having a ton of gold. The problem is you're giving the gold over to a Diana Slayer, someone who, with enough of it, can 1v9 a game.
I've seen many nasty Diana combos, and I fear the way this game is churning that XU will find a couple of them with that Moonfall combination, but Cast Curse comes through right on track. XU having to flash away from Lojaz and Baz, who pay attention towards the top side. Bot side, we're brawling against the walls. Everybody's getting slammed into the terrain here, but the Braum stun's coming across on a Decoy. Exhaust down. Mobility will be exhausted as well. Both of those summoners expended by the supports. Everybody walks out with bruises and bumps.
But no blood being shed at the end of the day as Ariendel.
Another snowball gonna land for Lojaz, severing both more than enough damage. Utter gets his revenge from game number 1.
Yup, the accuracy there from Utter. landing his skill shots off of the snowball. They get themselves a return kill, equalize the gold difference as well. So now AoE with a tiny minuscule advantage, and Mirage Alliance have a win condition in this mid lane that they can finally play toward.
That is what we talked about, the way Mirage want to play their games, by getting under ahead and playing around that factor. Play in that comfortable position. It's always something nice to find, but it is important to remember there are a ton of hyper-scaling members in this game, markedly on the other side of the mid lane matchup.
Yep, for sure. You've got to be very wary of Ariandel's stack counter, and it seems like AoE, you can see XU just visiting the mid lane, want to make sure that this Smolder has a relatively easy time in the lane phase. And I think AoE need to recognize that that sometimes might mean giving up objectives, but they're going for blood here.
Yeah, XU just wants to fight all hours of the day. With Breezy here stacking up Braum passives, why not? One more auto, he's actually going to stun up Pocus, who has to expend that coveted flash. And it means AoE grapple control of the topside river with the Grubs on the Rift.
They've got top lane priority, so mobility going to be able to roam there, and really it doesn't feel possible for Mirage Alliance to go for a contest, but the pings are coming through. They might want to look for it anyway. Again, we saw this situation in game 1. I really wish they would just go toward the Drake. But they're going to go for the fight.
Yeah, they take a ton of damage from XU, who jumps in with the Moonfall. He is level 6, but the slows from the Spiraling Despair are going to stun XU. He's going to go for the easy member. Low Jazz in the pit, finds that kill, and he's low health enough to try and cancel his back because he's got mobility and Breezy blocking for him. A ton of low health bars, but only one kill going the way of AoE. As that Dark Harvest stack nearly gets the kill for mobility.
Yeah, +1 in the chat there for mobility, getting that keystone, an additional stack for the Jhin. But once again, I mean, we see one kill, but other than that, it's cuts and bruises for both teams, and they're going to reset, go onto the map. The Dragon's still available, and with how heavy the scaling is on AoE, I would expect them to be very proactive around that objective. They are on the bot side. They've got the priority on both side lanes. I think XU has no issue just rotating toward that and continuing his advantage on this Diana.
He's got so much gold in pure items by this point. Should have no trouble just soloing out that dragon, but right now, looking for a bit of an invade. Will spot Low Jazz, just trying to take his red buff. Does not take over to level 6, and the Braum passive. One more auto should get XU's going to flash to commit for it, and Low Jazz is cut down in his own hometown for an XU killing spree.
AoE searching for blood, and XU wanting his pound of flesh. He will get it. 3-0 for the Diana. If you wanted proof of what an LTA jungler looks like, look no further, my friends. This is what an LTA jungler looks like in the ACL. And now they're going to transition that kill from Low Jazz onto a dragon, furthering their advantage, getting the scaling activated for Ariandel, for XU, and for mobility. The scaling factors on AoE have a scaling objective to boot.
And they have the double marksmen that are only going to get bigger and more worrisome as this game goes on. We talked about from draft, the X factor of this matchup, Quacks really thought could be which one of these non-marksman or super artillery mage range champions could get ahead enough to be powerful when they dash in. And so far for the AoE side, we certainly have our answer.
We absolutely do. AoE unlocking their win conditions beautifully in this early game, and meanwhile Mirage Alliance, sure, they've got a kill onto Utter, and he hasn't had a ton of difficulty in the lane, and even having a slight CS advantage on Ariandel, but they haven't furthered that advantage anymore as Pocus is going aggressive.
Recognizes they have the ultimate advantage, but the Solar Flare will just be cleansed for now. There's another ultimate online for the bottom laners. It's the Curtain Call. Baz and Pocus trading the shots, but nobody low enough for it to be an execute.
And also nobody on that side of the map. Both junglers are on the top side gearing up for these grubs, and it means that AoE can't really look for an additional aggressive play. Mobility without the flash won't be able to look for a surprise crit auto on the Jhin, and so they'll clear out that wave. They'll likely look for a reset and go up toward that top side and look for their next objective.
Jazz looking for a unique new gank angle here with a big snowball. This is how they got the kill on Ariandel last time. There's the knock-up. They get the fear. Spouting Despair. Severing Bolt has to be flashed by Ariandel, respecting that utter damage.
They don't kill him, but they put the fear of God into Ariandel and establish presence in the mid lane. Here goes
Public
Decoy.
execution! Welcome, Ambassador to the ACL. Decoy able to pick up the kill from distance.
Now they've got themselves a win con. Ariandel down for another 15 seconds means that they can set up around these grubs, but they've got to be careful. The teleport is available for Ariandel once he respawns, and top priority is also belonging to AoE, so they can easily enter, but they're unafraid, Slayer. They are just going straight for these grubs. Mid laner going down, be damned.
XU is just so much more powerful right now. Up a level. And I mean, it's a rocket belt versus it's a rocket belt versus a ruby crystal and an amp tone. There's no way.
And some boots.
Oh yeah, and the boots. Can't forget the boots, but the boots are even. So I mean, just an item.
Yeah, but I like Ionian boots more. I think they look prettier, so I think it's an advantage.
Okay, I forgot to factor in that from Quacks. Grubs are getting started up. XU grabs the first one. So we'll secure mites here on the fourth one. Cozy is far too low, but goes with the dominance. XU flashes for the Moonfall combo. It's on to Pocus and Lojaz, who are a bit tankier at this moment, but Cozy dashes in with the dominance, and with Mom raking through the fight, Under's going to fall for a shutdown, curtain call time for mobility, and he goes 4 for 4 on his shots to find a third kill for AoE.
And Cozy, the BBC, the big bad croc of AoE, comes on up and dismantles Mirage Alliance into that fight. They get themselves 5 grubs as well. And the advantages here, Slayer, they just keep piling up for AoE.
Then he asks the question, how battle-tested was AoE going into these playoffs? And outside their one series in the upper bracket, with a loss over towards that CCG Glorper, as we like to call him, Dragonsteel Glorp, they have not disappointed in these playoffs.
Nope, they certainly haven't. They are saying that series was a fluke. We want to get our revenge, and we're willing to make the journey in lower bracket. As here goes Cozy in a 1v2.
Decoy has public execution to cut the gap down. We'll get that big knock-up. Lojaz should have the root. Cozy with no dominance available should fall, but he's certainly making it tough to knock him down, and Lojaz going to fall. Cozy gets a big heal, has the rage stacked up as well. Level advantage, and he's just playing the big dance, but Decoy doesn't want to re-engage. What an outplay from Cozy.
And Cozy, he's not Cozy going just for the one. He might be looking to go for a second now. He's going to let Decoy live to tell the tale. And the Renekton coming up big in that 1v2. Now we'll be able to push down and get a plate for his efforts. And AoE maintain control of this bottom side right before the dragon spawns.
Ooh, Ariandel might have fallen if he ate that Spiraling Despair, but Orb blocks right around it. And this game has gone from bad to worse for Mirage. We are nearly 5K gold up before 15 minutes, and Cozy still likes his odds with Decoy. Now that he has dominance, gets the stun, he's healing through it. Ignite ticking, though, is capping his heal. Wait for the Rage Bar to go back up, trying to get that big slice of dice back up. The kill is not enough, but XU is nearby and should at least be able to trade this thing 1-for-1. A shutdown to Decoy, but a neutral 1-for-1 in the kill count.
You know, respect to XU, respecting the 1v1, and, you know, sure, his top laner loses it, but he's there to play janitor duty. He gets the kill in return, but with the Diana showing in the bot side, it does mean Mirage Alliance allow themselves the opportunity and the tempo ability to go for that grub. So that's probably going to be responded to by a dragon, but Mirage finally get themselves an objective in this game, too.
Same objective they were only able to wrestle in game number 1. Rift Herald being the one they're able to grab. Deja Vu. And that trend's going to continue because XU is comfortably slaying that second dragon on his own. Now Drake to fall soon, so Soul stacking. Once again, a very realistic win con for Area of Effect.
Yep. AoE, just like you said, stacking those win conditions, Slayer, and now I'm interested, without the Herald, it kind of feels difficult for this team to actually go for a siege opportunity, but What does alleviate that a little bit is having 5 grubs, but you've got to get in range of the tower. So you need Ariandel and you need mobility. And based on how they're positioned, they are not together. So getting those objectives is going to be hard as,
Cozy's put on a clinic. He dodges the first fear. They get the solar flare. The combo's coming across. Cozy does not have dominance again. Spawn Despair overhead. He's going to try and heal through it once more, but Under is spacing very well to not let him get the big heal. Low Jazz flashes to get the root, but there's a big stun. Cozy gets the Q up in time. XU gets the Moonfall down, and it's another skirmish win for this AoE roster.
And for a moment, I legitimately thought Cozy was going to get out there, but they take him down and the end of the day, but they all die for their efforts. AoE yet again winning out in the trades. And not only do they get the kills, but they get a top lane tower, they get a mid lane tower. They're going to be able to establish and push their vision on this top side jungle of Mirage Alliance and make it so damn difficult for them to get the jump onto AoE from now on.
Those turrets already knocked down. A bit worried about it, Quacks.
God.
Well, they've knocked down 3 off that top side win.
They're made of paper, Slayer. 5 grubs plus Diana. With that innate attack speed, XU is a tower-taking machine in this game.
Cool to see Ariandel also running a newer form of the Smolder mid build path. I forget which mid laner I thought I saw tweeting about it. I don't think it was Ariandel, but
I don't think it was a mid laner. I think it was Reptile.
Oh yeah, might have been Reptile, but the Hubris build being shown off here by Ariandel. A lot of talk about that being the new path. Lethality Smolder. That's the world we're living in now.
Yup. Absolutely. Hubris, you know, as an assassin main myself, I only have to say, please buff my items.
Yep, that's what I thought you'd do. I thought the campaigning would come out. I teed you up for
it. It's gotta every game. Just like you campaign for the Ezreal buffs.
Yep, that's true. He is as bad as it feels to play Hwei in this game if you're Udder. It is breezy to flash away.
Yep, breezy, getting on out there, but again, more fights being forced by AoE, but we don't have an objective to really play for the next 2 minutes. We're about 2.5 from the Dragon and the Baron. So AoE have some downtime, and I'm really interested to actually see how they play around having so much time to themselves. You can see Breezy and Co are looking to just establish vision, look for picks, but until they have something to fight for, it kind of feels like this downtime favors Mirage. They can keep this time up, and they can try to look for an advantage.
But yeah, there's no advantage to be found here. It's just the moon dropping onto Low Jazz. That sound from Quacks was actually the moon falling from XU. Low Jazz down for the 7th time of this game.
Yep. It's like that one movie with DiCaprio and Jennifer Lawrence. Don't look up. Low Jazz, don't look up, buddy.
Whatever's above you is on top of him by this point.
Now Decoy can't look up, potentially.
Yep, dash in from XU. Lunar Rush. Decoy does have enough dashes. Actually going to public execute back forward onto Breezy. Gets the shield up and does not pick up turret aggro. So fancy footwork from Breezy there to get out.
Yep. That's the 2nd time we've seen Breezy escape what should have been a very difficult situation to escape. He makes miracles happen as now Hocus is looking onto Cozy, but the dominance is available. I don't know if they want this.
Yeah, Glacial Fissure behind Breezy before he leaves, and boy, does Cozy like these odds in the meat grinder of a 1v3, but it is just the Cozy clinic tonight. A double kill with the dominance churning, and Pocus, who started the engage, will be the last one to fall as 3 more kills fall in line for Area of Effect Esports.
And basically, we're looking at an 11,000 gold lead coming out here for AoE Slayer. 4 to 14 in kills, 5 grubs, 2 dragons, a 7-0 and 5 Diana as well. Not to mention the ever-present stacking of the Smolder. All of these things on AoE, it feels so difficult to imagine a world where Mirage can come back, and that's why they're going for these fights. They're trying to force down anything they can find because the alternative is a dire strait.
Flashes, teleports behind, all of that committed so that Ariandel can fall, but XU, refreshed, steps back up, Doesn't want to engage the fight just yet without Breezy nearby. Get a flash, but need a fear from Utter. He wanted the big Moonfall combo. Luckily, he has the stasis to go into. Curtain Call over top. XU still alive and churning. Gonna find the second kill. Gets the heal, and now it comes in Baz to clean it up for Mirage just before XU can make a highlight reel play. A big gold injection for MA when they needed it.
And yet again, XU so close to making the game-winning play, but just isn't able to do it quite yet. But I feel like the game, Slayer, might already be won. It's 2 kills going over to Baz. A gold injection for the AD carry of Mirage Alliance, but you can see they're not comfortable with going for the Dragon. They're not comfortable pushing their lead. They know they're on borrowed time, and that time is not enough, so they have to give up the map control that they established by winning out in that exchange. And it just means AoE, with their respawns, can take those Hex gates, go to the Dragon, and continue pushing their will here in Game 2.
Not a lot more for AoE to do to get this one in their favor for the 2-0 sweep. Feels like just kind of going through the motions. They'll take the Dragons when they spawn, set up for these Barons, and just wait for Mirage to once again have to gamble and overextend themselves. Game 1 was dominant, so this is something else.
Oh yeah, this is Uncanny Valley right here. AoE really wanting to get to that next spot here in the ACL playoffs, and who knows, maybe some of them are on Eastern Standard Time and want to get food before all the shops close down. It's a rough life being in a city on holiday season, I can tell you that much, and maybe some of the players are in the city. But yeah, one pick and they probably go for the Baron buff. It feels so damn difficult to imagine a world where Mirage can turn this one around. Doesn't matter how many kills you feed over to Utter or Baz, or how many times you could catch out XU on a potentially game-winning Moonfall. This game feels inevitable, and so does the result.
Catch on to Pocus. Stuns galore coming across. Low Jazz looking for a re-engage. We're just waiting for the XU combo. There's the Moonfall with the curtain call behind. Mom breaking through. Kill's not coming pretty easy just yet. XU gonna fall out of the stasis. Decoy re-engage with that public execution. Gets towards the marksman like we talked about this. Abessa has to. But the root comes across from a deadly flourish. Mobility will dodge a severing bolt to survive. And now they've unleashed the croc. Cozy running forward the dominant. Slice and dices forward. And Baz is now the only one left in his wake. Able to survive back towards the turret. A closer fight than expected, but a fight win for AoE nonetheless.
And Cozy is restless, wanting to look for another kill onto Baz. This is like when you go to the enclosure at the zoo and the alligator wants to bite you through the glass, but he's just not able to get through it. Cozy not able to get that tick onto Bazby on this Corki. So they're going to start respawning. They're going to go back onto the map. They still have control over this topside river, so the Baron is still on the table. The gold lead is still very firmly for AoE, and we're right back to square one for Mirage Alliance. They get the advantage, but are not able to do anything with it at the end of the day.
So rinse and repeat. Set up around this river, threaten a Baron, or find a pick here. Just who will really overextend to ignite the fuse by this point? Side wave towards the top is in favor of AoE as they'll look to push towards that side of the map.
And Low Jazz, he's high on Jazz with those dance moves on the Nunu, just going for a few dances here and there. The Baron, though, definitely going to be dancing with the members of AoE in no time as the pings are coming through on that objective. They want to look onto it. They want to put this game in its final hours and its final stages and get on to that next phase in the ACL, Slayer.
Most teams with Jhin on the composition, not good at taking Baron. Helps when you got a second marksman. Mobility and Ariendel trying to shred through it. Pocus commits the Solar Flare. Does not get either of those marksmen. Low Jazz goes in. He wants the hero steal. He does not get it. XU roots it up. Decoy on the backside has found Mobility. Will find the first kill. Mobility 1 versus 3 exhausted. Should be shredded through by Baz. So for the moment, Mirage are finding the kills they need to as Decoy gets another shutdown on Ariendel. XU gonna trade him out. 3 versus 2 for Mirage. They're trying to knock all the Barons out. Big flash stun from Pocus, and Baz able to earn that kill. Breezy flashing over the wall. Supportal combat to trade Pocus, but he becomes the only one to survive.
And Exu decides to re-engage that Fight Slayer. You have the Baron buff. You have the ability to live to fight another day. But I think Exu just wanted to avenge his fallen teammates, but he goes down in the process. Breezy, the only one repping the purple banner at the end of the day. And for the time being, I can't believe I'm saying this, Slayer, Mirage Alliance win out on the exchange.
And what a massive time to do it. With the Baron being taken, you virtually have knocked it off the map because Breezy, he can threaten one lane, but it's hard for him to really have any side lane threat with the Baron. It's really just going to be barreling down the major wave that AoE play for. So next on the stop is going to be this Mountain Soul that Mirage do have to play for. And you can see how aggressive they are trying to fight for that river control.
And they did get a massive influx of gold. It is worth noting. Utter now has that Void Staff complete, as well as getting closer to that third item. So should be able to burn through some of the frontliners. Baz as well, level 15. Very good at burning through the front line. Here we go.
Yeah, who's far too low near his turret, so he pops the Dominus, but Decoy just shreds him, dashing in and out. Another beautiful, perfect execution from Decoy. Mobility channeling the last shot of the curtain call, but Decoy will tank it towards the face. Ariandel TPing in. Glacial Fisher, Mom gonna cut off Pokes' escape route. He is cut down, going a little too far forward. And now AoE can step back up, but maybe Ariandel went too far forward as a root comes across for Utter. This fight explodes with Exu's Moonfall, but the health bars aren't dead enough yet. Baz and Utter survive again, and the damage has exacerbated for AoE as they lose another fight narrowly.
And AoE, they're trying to bully their way through this. Mobility is plenty healthy. They're trying to gain control of this mid lane, make it difficult for Mirage Alliance to fight for this dragon. They want to stall out that fight, but Utter doesn't want to stall any longer.
He teleports in from the side. They try and use a low jazz snowball, but he gets towards Mobility. Deadly Flourish won't land. The burn from the Leandries. The Severing Bolt finds its mark for Utter, but teleport galore. Another flank. This time it's Cozy, and he's going to find Utter with a slow and stun. As this fight is turned into a elongated skirmish, Hexgate's gonna get low jazz out as two people are using the Pocus now going back forward. Breezy gonna fall to Baz P. This fight has no lines drawn. Everybody's just flanking each other. Cozy on the wrong side as Decoy teleports in. Mirage don't care about the Croc because they're gonna stop the Stole stacking. Drake taken. Will Cozy make it cost them? Has the Dominus, dashes back in. Stun gonna land on Ariandel. Exu here as well. Public execution down, but Decoy doesn't get the target he wants. And the Smolder execute is now here, and it's to be feared as well. Pocus slowed up, should fall to Cozy as the resets come across. A couple more dashes to find it. Exhaust not gonna matter. Couple more hits will get it. 4 kills for AoE, and the fight finally calms down.
And good lord, I don't even feel like calling that a fight, Slayer. That was an all-out war between Mirage Alliance and Area of Effect Esports. What an exchange, pound for pound. And Mirage Alliance, they may still be down 11,000 and gold, but they're down, but they are never out as they keep on fighting. They find themselves the dragon. They pay the price for it, but they continue to extend the timer for which this game is running on. The doomsday clock has not struck midnight, Slayer.
Has on the inhibitor turret. So Ariandel opens the base up. Somehow we thought they'd have Baron, we thought they'd have Hextech Soul. They have neither. But they're still able to crack the base open. It's important to remember, even though Mirage have found a lot of fighting ways back in, this is still nearly 11,000 gold in favor of AoE. And they're still looking to push the tempo here onto another inhibitor turret, but this time Mirage have something to say about it. Spiraling Despair going to slow Breezy up, going to throw the Glacial Fissure down in the background. Mom going to rake across the fight. Here's the range that AoE have with their 2 marksmen as the curtain call goes down. Exu won't get a kill as he's executed on the front side, and Decoy is once again unleashed on this Abetsa, but Mobility has something to say, trying to find the crit shot, but won't get it onto Decoy, and Utter finds the kill once more. Mobility just can't get close enough, but maybe Cozy can. He's arrived to the fight late so many times, but still been a difference maker. This time he's looking to do it once more with Ariandel, who's dashed over the wall. Cozy pops the Dominus, and eviscerates Pocus. Down goes Utter as well, and it's Cozy once again to rescue another fight for AoE.
Yeah, Cozy manages to make the difference yet again, and the remaining members of a Mirage Alliance forced to back and clear that mid wave to keep their inhibitor alive, but still Mirage are getting gold through all of this AoE. Sure, they are getting advantages, but Mirage are managing to continue to contain this game, contain AoE, and still, Baz is unkilled. So this Corki, definitely the win condition that Mirage Alliance need to play for, need to protect, need to prevent XU and Cozy from getting onto. If they can do that, they can keep their hopes alive. But the Baron might not be long for this world.
Last Baron take was as far from business as usual for AoE. It ended up with Breezy being the only one taking the purple banner down. This time, a lot more calm. 5 members with the purple banner, but here comes the fight we saw start last time. Breezy low, Mom curtain call combination, and with the no touches onto the marksman, XU can just explode with Cozy. That's exactly how AoE were expected to fight it out with their gold lead, and they finally get the mark they need. Pocus, Baz, Decoy all fall, leaves Utter and Slow Jazz up, but Utter falls to a crit shot to the face, and that should do it. A dominating show in the lower bracket. AoE are here to stay. The top seed from Piltover is going to move on in the ACL playoffs.
And Cozy is just playing Ring Around the Rosie with a low jazz. One turret goes down, the next to follow, and the Nexus will be the last thing on the menu. Area of Effect Esports make a splash here in the lower bracket and are looking to keep their playoff dreams alive, Slayer.
Maybe not as dominating as the early game indicated, but still a 2-0 nonetheless. For Area of Effect Esports. They will move on and knock Mirage Alliance out of the playoffs after such a dominating regular season.
And, you know, credit to Mirage Alliance, man. This was like this was an organization that so many people thought were a previous chapter in the book of Tier 3. A lot of people said they were done after the NACL, that there wouldn't be another Mirage Alliance run ever again. But they dropped the baguette, and that shows they might be here to stay. They might be back. They might be looking to compete in tournaments like the ACL, like the Open Qualifiers. If this is any indication, it's that Mirage Alliance are not a Mirage any longer, and that they are here to compete yet again.
That's the hope. Like to see this logo that I got very familiar with over my years of casting stick around here.
Same.
In Tier 3 and Tier 2. But Area of Effect Esports, the roster full of so much talent, you know, all NACL and now LTA talent today, as we saw XU absolutely pop off in the series.
Wow, yeah.
Continue forward, and they will be facing the winner of St. Clair Saints versus Pulsing Gooners. So, and last I heard of that, St. Clair took game number 1, so should be another banger matchup coming from the lower bracket. It's what you expect. It's honestly I feel like it's a hot take. My favorite part of the playoffs is these lower bracket games because they're honestly so much more scrappy until you get to that title fight, obviously.
Yeah, for sure. I think AoE, you know, they've got quite a mountain to climb, but if anything, if this series proved anything, they brought their gear and they are ready to go. So I'm interested to see who they play in their next round, how far they can make it, because this is the best team from Piltover. A lot of people are high on this squad. Others, though, calling them frauds. So it's going to be interesting to see where this team ends up and how they'll be performing in future weeks. But if this was any indication, Slayer, they're definitely here to play.
AoE definitely here as teams start thinning out and the Titans start to emerge. Another 1 seed that is continued to keep their playoff alive. No number 1 seed has dropped out just yet, but where we're throwing you guys over the mainstream might make me think twice about what I just said.
Yep.
Peak Performers have ISU, the top seed from their very division, the Demacia division, on the ropes here. We'll throw you guys live with a raid over there. Make sure to go show some love from the Salt Mine as they are in the middle of game number 2. But myself and Quacks will be back on Friday for I believe an upper bracket, lower bracket, some sort of heater matchup in the playoffs. Until then, take care.
Bracket.
Enjoy the holidays as they come, and we'll see you soon.